Donald Trump says he'll impose 30% tariffs on imports from the EU and Mexico starting next month. Weeks of negotiations with Brussels failed to reach a comprehensive trade deal. Trump blamed long-term and persistent trade deficits with the EU. On Mexico, he said the government had not done enough to curb cross-border drug trafficking. Writing on his Truth Social site, Trump warned rates would increase if the EU or Mexico retaliate. He made similar threats against dozens of other trading partners earlier this week. For more on this, we are joined now by DW correspondent Tessa Walther in Brussels. Tessa, Trump and tariffs, here we go again. How seriously should EU states take it this time?
The EU has to and will take this very seriously because, we are talking about hundreds of billions of euros worth of goods that are being traded in this transatlantic trade. And the EU has already reacted with a statement. And just let me read this to you. They're saying the EU is underlining its openness to trade, its willingness to negotiate, to find a deal in this constructive partnership with the US. And it also says that it has stood to an open trade worldwide in the past and also with the US, saying that it will continue to find and wanting to find an agreement until August 1st, when these 30% will be taken into effect. But it also says in this letter, and that's interesting, that the EU is also willing to take countermeasures. So this is really the statement that says, you can't play with us the way you want. We will react if we have to react. And this means that a lot of experts here in Brussels are saying, well, this has taken people by surprise because, only Friday there was already the talk of maybe 10%, a deal that could be reached. A lot of people were hopeful here. The EU has already made a lot of steps, according to these experts, towards the US. So there was really a hope for a better trade deal. But these 30% have really taken people by surprise. What will happen now is that EU trade ministers will come together on Monday and they will discuss this and then potentially decide if countermeasures should be taken on this Monday.
We should mention again, in recent weeks, the EU has actually been negotiating with the US, trying to prevent the very situation with which they're now confronted. What can you tell us?
Yes, and that's actually a very interesting point, because what we've seen here in Brussels in recent weeks or months really is that there have been two camps. There has been the camp of countries that have been pushing for a deal, really any deal to be honest, and these were countries that were quite export driven, like Germany with its car industry or Ireland with its pharmaceuticals, and they were saying we need predictability, we need any deal also for our consumers to prevent a rise in prices. And then there was the other camp, so that was France or Denmark saying no, Trump doesn't understand this language. We need to fight back. We need to stand up. And really, both of these camps have now been quite disappointed with these 30% because neither of them have expected it. So what needs to happen now is ultimately the EU has to decide how it wants to react, because if we want to zoom out a bit here, we see that the EU is in a difficult situation because really we have to understand this is not only about trade. This is also about where the EU stands in the world in geopolitics. And what it is that since the Russian aggression towards Ukraine, the EU stands here quite defensively. Many experts fear this aggression that come from Russia towards the EU, towards Europe. And then the EU stands here with not the defense that it might need. So there it really much depends on this transatlantic partnership, on Trump. And a lot of people here say we cannot afford to push him back because we need him in security concerns. So it will be very interesting to see what happens here on Monday when the trade ministers meet.
Tessa Walther in Brussels, thank you.